The first time an HOA tried to get a key to my house, I laughed. The first time they locked me out of my own neighborhood, I stopped laughing. And the moment their president looked me dead in the eye and said, "Key, or you don't come in," I realized this wasn't about rules anymore. It was about control. I'm Ethan Miller, and when I moved into Maple Grove Estates, I thought I'd bought a home, not signed up for a hostage negotiation. I'd relocated to Cedar Ridge for work, one of those steady, quiet Midwest towns where you expect the biggest drama to be a raccoon in the trash cans. I wanted a clean driveway, a little backyard, a garage to tinker in on weekends, and a place that felt like mine. Maple Grove looked perfect on paper: neat lawns, tidy sidewalks, a pretty little clubhouse, and a gate that made it feel safe. I figured the HOA was just the usual: keep the neighborhood nice, make sure nobody paints their house neon green, whatever. The first week I was still unpacking, still eating takeout off paper plates, when I heard this sharp, confident knock at my door. Not a polite knock. A knock that said, "I own this place." I opened it, and there she was, Brenda Whitmore. Mid-40s, hair set in that perfect blonde wave that never moves even in wind-white blazer, like she was heading to a job interview she already knew she'd win, and a clipboard tucked against her chest like a shield. She smiled so wide it didn't reach her eyes. "Hi, welcome to Maple Grove Estates," she chirped in the same tone a flight attendant uses right before telling you the plane has no air conditioning. "I'm Brenda, HOA president. I just need you to fill out our key form." I blinked. My key form? She held up a sheet like it was a standard utility bill. A spare key. For emergencies. Floods, fires, medical incidents. It's community safety. I actually chuckled because I thought she was joking. "Yeah, no. If there's a flood or a fire, you call 911. You don't need a key to my house." Her smile tightened. Not gone, just sharpened. "Our bylaws allow access in an emergency." "Sure," I said, leaning on the doorframe. "And my personal bylaws say strangers don't get keys to my front door." That's when she did this thing Karen types do. She scanned past me into my home like she was already picturing her furniture arrangement. "It's not strangers, Ethan. It's your HOA." And then, like she couldn't help herself, her eyes dropped to my porch, the corners of her mouth twitching as if she'd spotted something deliciously wrong. "Also, you'll want to make sure your trash bins are fully concealed. That's in Section 4. I looked at my bins tucked behind a fence panel barely visible. "They're concealed." She tapped her clipboard. "Not fully. The lid edge is visible from the street at certain angles." I stared at her, waiting for the punchline. It never came. She turned like she'd just done me a favor, and as she walked off, she said over her shoulder, "Just get me that spare key by Friday, okay?" Like we'd agreed on it. That was my first real introduction to Maple Grove Estates. Not the welcome sign, not the clean sidewalks. Brenda. The next few days I tried to shrug it off. I told myself, okay, she's intense. Some people are intense. But then the emails started. A friendly reminder that my trash bins were non-compliant. A notice that my front door color dark navy was off palette. Then a $75 fine attached to it like it was normal to be billed for having a blue door. I called the property management company listed on the footer, Summit Property Management, and got a guy who sounded like he was always smiling. "Oh yeah," he said, like we were discussing weather. "Brenda's very proactive." "Proactive," I repeated. "She fined me for my door." He laughed softly, the way people laugh when they've heard that story before. "If you attend the next HOA meeting, you can appeal." I asked the obvious question. Does the HOA actually require a spare key? There was a pause, and then he went careful. "The HOA encourages it." Encourage. That word sat in my chest like a pebble. Encourages is what you do with recycling. Encourages is what you do with voting. Encourages is not something you do with the one thing that separates a home from a public building. Friday came, and I did not hand over any key. The next morning, Saturday, there was another knock. This time it wasn't just Brenda. A man stood beside her, arms folded, wearing a black polo that said "Security" in block letters, like he'd bought the costume at a Halloween store. Darren Pike. That was his name because he introduced himself like a threat. "We're here to do a quick inspection," Brenda announced, already stepping toward my threshold. "A walkthrough, 10 minutes. I put my hand on the doorframe, stopping her. "Absolutely not." Darren lifted his chin. "Sir, it's standard procedure. HOA compliance inspection. We need to verify. You need to verify nothing." I cut in, my pulse starting to climb. "You don't get to enter my house because you feel like it." Brenda sighed dramatically, like I was a toddler refusing a nap. "Ethan, don't make this difficult. We're trying to protect property values." By coming into my house, I asked, incredulous, "What are you checking?" "That my couch matches the neighborhood." Darren shifted his weight like he was deciding how aggressive he could be without crossing a line. Brenda leaned in slightly and lowered her voice, but not enough to sound kind. "If you don't cooperate," she said, "the HOA has ways to enforce compliance." There it was, the first real glimpse of what she was. Not a neighborhood volunteer, not a concerned resident, a person who liked power because it made people smaller. I shut the door. I didn't slam it, but I wanted to. I stood there for a second, staring at the wood, breathing like I'd just run a mile. I told myself, okay, boundaries set. That's it. They'll back off. They did not back off. They got smarter. They got more creative. A bright orange sticker appeared on my car windshield one evening. Unauthorized parking warning. My car was in my driveway. My driveway. The same stretch of concrete I'd paid for with my down payment and my mortgage and my sanity. I peeled it off and walked it to the HOA office at the clubhouse. Brenda happened to be outside, of course, like she lived for these moments. "Oh," she said, glancing at the sticker. "Yes, we've had complaints." "Complaints from who?" I asked. "From residents," she said vaguely, then smiled. "You were parked at an angle. It looked messy." "Are you serious?" I asked, voice rising. She lifted a finger like a teacher disciplining a kid. "Ethan, I'm going to need you to calm down. You're being hostile." Hostile. For questioning why my own driveway wasn't good enough. I felt heat crawling up my neck. I wanted to scream, but I'd seen enough viral HOA videos to know if you raise your voice, they'll point at you like you're the problem. So I swallowed it. I went home. I tried to be normal. Then came the Monday morning that flipped my life into something I didn't recognize. I woke up late, already stressed, threw on clothes, grabbed my keys, and headed out. The sky was gray, the air was cold, and my brain was on autopilot coffee car gate commute. I pulled up to the entrance gate, punched in my code beep error. I tried again. Error. I sat there blinking at the keypad like it had personally betrayed me. Behind me, another car rolled up, a woman in an SUV, and she honked once. I waved apologetically and tried the code again. Error. My stomach dropped. I reversed, pulled to the side, and called Summit Property Management. The same smiling voice answered. "Summit, how can I help?" "My gate code isn't working," I said. "It says error." There was keyboard tapping too casual for what was happening. He said, still cheerful. "It looks like your access has been suspended." I froze. Suspended? What does that even mean? It means the HOA board has temporarily disabled your gate access due to violations. Violations? Like I'd committed a crime. So, I can't leave? I asked. Or come in? He hesitated. "You can coordinate with the board." "Coordinate," I repeated, voice sharp now. "I'm trying to go to work." "Yes, sir," he said, and I could practically hear the shrug. "You'll need to work with the HOA if you want access restored." I hung up and just sat there, hands on the wheel, heart thumping. And then I saw her. Brenda walking from the clubhouse toward the gate like she'd been waiting. She wasn't alone. Darren was with her, and he had that same bored, tough guy posture. Brenda stopped right by my window and leaned down slightly, smiling. And no joke, she pulled out her phone and started recording. The little red dot was like a slap. "Morning, Ethan," she sang. "Having trouble." "You disabled my gate access," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "Turn it back on." She tilted her head. "We can't just ignore violations." "What violation?" I snapped. "My door. My trash bins." "Your attitude," she said. "Sweet as poison." Then she held up a paper. "Here's what we need. A spare key submitted to the HOA office and your signature on this compliance agreement. Then we'll restore your access." I stared at her. "You're locking me out until I give you a key to my house." Brenda's smile widened. I didn't say that, she replied, as if she hadn't just said exactly that. Darren stepped forward closer to my car, like he wanted to make me feel boxed in. "Sir," he said, "don't escalate." I laughed, but it came out hollow. "Escalate. I'm trapped behind a gate because your boss wants a house key." Brenda leaned closer to my window phone, still recording, and said the words I will never forget. "Key, or you don't come in." My hands tightened on the steering wheel so hard my knuckles hurt. I could feel my face burning. I wanted to jump out and tell her exactly what she could do with her clipboard. But I also saw her phone, and I knew if I exploded, she'd win. She'd have the footage. She'd have the narrative. "Look at this aggressive homeowner," she'd say. "We had to protect the community." So I did the only thing I could do. I backed my car away, pulled into a visitor spot near the clubhouse, and walked. I walked out of the neighborhood, past manicured lawns, past people watering plants, like nothing was happening. And I called an Uber from the sidewalk like a teenager sneaking out. I got to work late, flustered, humiliated. And all day my mind kept replaying it. Key, or you don't come in. That night it got worse. I came home after work and parked in my driveway like always. I was still shaking with anger, but I told myself I'd handle it the next day. I'd call, I'd email, I'd figure out the proper process. At around 9, I heard a truck outside. I peeked through the blinds and saw a tow truck backing up. My stomach lurched. I ran outside in socks, waving my arms. "Hey, what are you doing?" The driver barely looked at me. "Tow order," he said. "Unauthorized parking." "That's my driveway," I said, voice cracking with disbelief. "I live here." He pointed to his clipboard. "HOA authorized. Take it up with them." Before I could even argue, Darren was there, like he teleported, standing at the edge of my driveway with his arms crossed. "You can't do this," I said, turning toward him. Darren shrugged. "Not my decision." I looked past him and saw Brenda near the sidewalk, half hidden by a tree phone, up again, filming like she was getting her favorite TV episode. My car got hooked. My car got dragged. And I stood there helpless, watching my own property disappear down the street because someone in a white blazer wanted a key to my front door. I went back inside and slammed the door so hard my picture frames rattled. I sat at my kitchen table staring at the bare spot in the driveway through the window, and something inside me just cracked. The next morning, the tow yard charged me $480 towing and overnight storage. $480 for daring to park at my own home. I paid it because I needed my car.